So what did the first debate achieve? Did the candidates manage to win any votes with such a messy interaction? And with 33 days left for polling, what can we expect in the days ahead? To discuss this and more, we're joined by a very special panel of guests. From New York, we have Arvind Vora, former vice chair of the Libertarian Party. Also joining us from New York, Bernard Whitman, Democratic strategist, a former pollster to Bill Clinton and Michael Bloomberg. From Washington, D.C., Lieutenant Stephen Roger, advisor to Trump's re-election campaign, and Reena Shah, political advisor and former Republican strategist, also with us from Washington, D.C. Good evening to all of you.
Good evening.
Pleasure to be here.
Good evening, Policy.
Lieutenant Stephen Roger, let's begin with you. What we saw in the debate, shouting, interruptions, incoherent crosstalk. Donald Trump was the aggressor in this debate, constantly interrupting Joe Biden and bulldozing the moderator. Did you sense some desperation in the president?
Not at all. I sense frustration. To begin with, and perhaps the other guests may agree on this point, we're living in the 21st century, and to expect two candidates running for the most important office in the land to express their views in 2 minutes is absolutely unacceptable. So I would say that the way this is set up was not designed to really give both candidates the time they need to express themselves. Now, Joe Biden was saying things that certainly were not accurate, and the president tried to explain that within that 2-minute period. So, look, he was frustrated. No desperation at all, and you could see the frustration on his face. So I would just, and even perhaps Joe Biden was frustrated, but I think the president did pretty good in articulating law and order issues, the health care issue, and also the issue of whether Joe Biden really controls the party.
I'm not sure articulating is the word I'll use. When talking about this debate, Bernard Whitman, Joe Biden did not come out looking good either. At one point, he practically told the American president to shut up. Has this performance improved or worsened his chances?
I think it has improved his chances, and I'm not sure what debate my colleague was watching, but that was not the debate that I saw. This debate was a complete disaster for Donald Trump, largely because Donald Trump came into this debate last night well behind. He had to shake up the race. He had to change the dynamic. He had to get people to reconsider him. And instead, it reinforced what everybody already knows about Donald Trump, that he's a bully, that he can't be trusted, that he's a liar, that he's not likable. And so ultimately, all those shouting and screaming and name-calling, all it did was to keep the race exactly where it is. People don't like Donald Trump. He's 6 to 7 points behind nationally. He's 3 to 5 points behind in all sorts of key swing states. Joe Biden had to come to the debate prepared, look presidential, be able to stand up to Donald Trump, make his point. He could have made his point more forcefully, certainly on COVID and the economy. Well, Donald Trump looked erratic. He looked like a rabid dog, backed into a corner, wanting to bite anybody that came near him, particularly the moderator, as well as Joe Biden. And I don't think it served to change anything at all. And in an event like this, when you have 33 days to change the election, when you're behind so bad, you need to change things, you need to shake things up. And this basically cemented people's belief that Donald Trump is quite erratic, not likable, and unfit to serve the country.
Wow, that's a lot of adjectives. Arvind Vora, according to a CBS YouGov poll, more than 8 in 10 voters who watched the debate say its tone was negative, and I agree. 69% felt annoyed after watching it. What did you make of it? Was there anything in the debate that would enrich the viewer or make him or her change his point of view about a particular candidate?
I will tell you this. During the debate, here's how disgusted the American people were with that attempt at a debate. During the debate, I saw the numbers of the Let Joe Jorgensen debate, change.org petition skyrocket to over 100,000 since I last checked. I mean, the American people were disgusted with the debate, not just because of its aggressiveness, but because it failed to address any of the substantive issues. Listen, Joe Biden is the architect of the drug war, one of the most hated programs in America. And nobody brought him to task on that because Joe Jorgensen was not in the debate. Donald Trump has a terrible record on Republican positions. He has a terrible record when it comes to Second Amendment rights. And again, Joe Jorgensen wasn't in the debate to bring him to task. So this was a debate. It was petty. It was not substantive. Half the time they were talking about Joe Biden's son rather than actual economic policy or social policy or anything of any substance. So what we saw here at the Libertarian Party was a massive uptick in the interest in Joe Jorgensen for president.
Reena Shah, what did you make of the interaction? the debate?
I thought it was a horror show. I think the American people lost out last night. I do agree with Arvin when he says that there were no ideas discussed. I mean, it was impossible to get true positions from either of these candidates last night. I think it was particularly a disservice to Joe Biden when Trump wouldn't even let him finish a sentence. It seemed that Trump had no self-control. He kept interrupting the moderator. He jumped all over Joe Biden when he'd get maybe 3 to 4 words out of his mouth. And I was particularly shocked because the moderator had to step in a couple times and say, President Trump, your campaign agreed to certain rules. You're not following the rules. This is not just the toddler in chief. He's the gaslighter in chief. He lies and lies and lies until, well, look, we haven't even seen these 4 years. He continues to do so. I don't want to say he lies until he can't no more, because we continue to get these false narratives from him all the time. He's telling us, I've got a plan, when we know for sure there's empirical data that shows he's got no plan to attack the COVID-19 pandemic on our shores. It's not going to be contained. And frankly, the other most disturbing part of last night, and probably the most important, was the fact that he gave truly to people who are white supremacists, part of hate groups in this country, he gave them the right to sort of say, you are heard. He recognized them. He did not condemn them. He did not denounce them. And that is what is so appalling to me today.
Lieutenant Stephen Rogers, you're in the minority here. Most panelists seem to agree that Donald Trump did not come out looking good with the way he continuously interrupted. 73 interruptions in 90 minutes, according to one count. What was he trying to achieve?
Well, I agree that, look, the interruptions, I don't think anybody's going to argue with that point, did distract from the issues that had to be spoken about. But I've got to tell you, to say he has no plan, well, he does have a plan. He's got a lot of plans. Look at what he's done with the economy. He has made it a point, and he brought this to the attention of Joe Biden and the country for a long time. Shutdowns are not the answer. The economy's been crippled. People are being put out of work. Joe Biden supports higher taxes. He supports putting people out of work. He supports a socialist agenda. So that was one point the president articulated on. Now, what about the coronavirus? He had a plan and he executed it. From day one, he prohibited flights from China coming in. Not one American was denied a ventilator. He was commended by Democrat governors who did state as we moved along that he did respond to their needs. The United States military is stronger than ever before. So I could go down the list of those things. But unfortunately, to your point, I think there were a lot of distractions because of the interruptions, whether it be by President Trump or Joe Biden, and frustration. That is what I saw, frustration. But the president was able to get his message out with regard to his plan. So it's a false narrative to say the man doesn't have any plans, and he has not responded.
No, you still didn't tell us about a plan for the COVID-19 pandemic. You still did not articulate what plan this president has for the pandemic, how to control it. The last thing I remember hearing is 15 days to slow the spread.
Yeah.
How did that work?
His plan.
Where have you been?
His plan allowed.
I haven't been under the rock, sir. Your president does not have a plan.
His plan is to allow 200,000 people to die and to belittle that and to cause the economy to have to be shut down, throwing 30 million people out of work, and to put someone on the Supreme Court who will take away Obamacare, who will take away the pre-existing conditions limitations so insurance companies can discriminate against people with pre-existing conditions, including COVID. He has no plan to reopen the schools. He has no plan to deal with the economy now that the economy is not what it was a year ago. It's a complete unmitigated disaster. And if the American people could hear anything last night, they could hear Joe Biden repeatedly say he doesn't have a plan in the economy. He doesn't have a plan on COVID. He doesn't have a plan on health care. He doesn't have a plan on climate change. He has no plan, which is why he was so angry and scared last night.
I am aghast that you would say, oh, please, when our colleagues said 200,000 Americans.
We don't want this to be an extension of what we saw in the presidential debate. So we'll speak one person at a time. And because Lieutenant Roger is in the minority, we think we'll go to him for this response, and I'll come to Arvind Bohra then.
This is what they do, okay? They give talking points out. They have no idea what they're talking about. Number one, all right, the president did not shut the entire economy down. He left it up to the governors. I live in a state where we're still shut down for the most part. So don't lay that on the president. And to suggest that the president of the United States is responsible for all these people who died, is ludicrous. I mean, that's ridiculous. No one person is responsible for that. Number three, with regard to the economy, how could anyone deny that retirement pensions, everything had gone up? They've been skyrocketing. The economy's great before COVID-19, and now it's coming back. He's brought jobs back to this country. So you're going down those talking points and you're name-calling, calling him a bully, calling him unintellectual. If you notice, I haven't called Joe Biden any names, all right? I think Joe Biden served 48 years in the United States Congress. I think the guy should have credit for serving, but he hasn't accomplished very much. So why don't we talk about policy and put to rest all this bickering back and forth over personalities? I think that's what the American people and, frankly, people around the world want to hear.
And if I were making a case for Donald Trump, I wouldn't bring up the Wuhan virus pandemic. But Arvind Vohra, that has dominated a large part of the debate. Trump clubbed India with Russia and China, raising doubts over the Indian statistics. Do you think Delhi will trust Washington as an ally under Donald Trump when the president constantly criticizes Indian policies, especially on the issue of trade, just to keep his core vote bank intact?
I do believe that Trump had some points when he was saying that a lot of the numbers worldwide have been massively, massively underreported. I don't think we're getting accurate information from the bulk of the world, not for any malicious purpose. I just don't believe that most countries have the infrastructure to actually give actual reports, the exception being China, who I believe was just actually lying. But when the argument that Trump was talking about issues is preposterous, the big issues that to hit Joe Biden on that have made him unpopular with the left was the fact that he architected the drug war. Joe Jorgensen wants to get rid of the drug war. Trump didn't bring up that topic one bit. When it comes to taxes, Joe Jorgensen wants to end the income tax. Biden didn't talk about taxes in any way other than the corporate tax, which is such a minor and insignificant part of the tax burden on the actual average American. So what we're seeing over here is just distractions from the real topics. And that's what happens when you have a debate that is exclusive, that doesn't allow all voices, and it doesn't allow the discussion of issues. Listen, I don't think anyone in the world believes that having a substantive discussion on taxes, drug war, economy, and free market response to the pandemic would have been a waste of time compared to discussing Joe Biden's son for half an hour.
Bernard Whitman, hours before the debate, Biden released his tax returns for last year. He paid nearly $300,000 in taxes, and this was after the New York Times reported that Trump had paid only $750 as tax in 2017 and zero for years before that. Do you think this discourse on tax will have any impact on the mind of the voters, or is this just for the press?
I think it mostly reinforces the belief that people already had, which is Donald Trump can't be trusted. He's either a complete liar, a failed businessman, or a tax cheat. Pick one of them, and that clearly is the implication here. I think the fact that Donald Trump refuses to release his taxes, we all know why. This has been baked into the equation. I think it gives more ammunition to the left. I think it gives more cause for concern to people in the middle and even on the right. This is a guy who won office on the claim that he is a great businessman. And the New York Times disclosures show, in fact, he's a terrible businessman and using intended losses to avoid paying taxes, i.e. cheating the government. So if you're in favor of someone that cheats the government or is a terrible businessman, then vote for Donald Trump. If you want to bring some sanity back into our national discourse and elect someone who is commonly decent, then I think Joe Biden made the case last night that he's your guy.
Rina Shah, Trump is using the business dealings of Hunter Biden to attack Joe Biden, and he's done that consistently, but there is no clear evidence of corruption against the Bidens. Do you feel these charges will continue to haunt the campaign?
Haunt the Biden campaign?
Yes.
I'll tell you. Look, the right wing is going to do whatever it wants to do with this information. They love to bring up Hunter Biden as some sort of lightning rod, some evidence that the Biden family has engaged in nefarious activity. What they need to do is look inward and see that by Trump employing his children the way in which he has, including them in so much White House activity, public activity, he has really overstepped the lines. I mean, this is a guy who is a hypocrite because of the fact that Ivanka Trump and his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, this family enriches itself off the American presidency. He has still never divested from the Trump companies. He says he's taken a step back, but has he divested? No. And for our international viewers, this is important. Look up the emoluments clause. He's in direct violation of the emoluments clause. There have been legal cases that have tried to take this president president to task. And we have been unsuccessful. The system has failed us. I've made my career in Republican politics, and I am shocked by the lack of empathy on the right and the fact that they continue to lie about the son of the former vice president. They say he was dishonorably discharged from military service. There's no proof of that. They say they have made up lies, such as him receiving certain amounts of payments from the Moscow mayor's wife. They will do anything to spin and spin to take the attention off of them. That is what the Trump family does. When they find themselves in a mess, they lie to get themselves out of it. And it is gaslighting because it is trying to take the attention away from the true matters at hand. The fact that President Trump is 6 points behind Joe Biden in national polls. Joe Biden, at this very point in the race, holds a bigger and more consistent lead than Hillary Clinton did back at this point in her race against Donald Trump. So there's a lot on the line here. Anything could happen. But one thing is for sure is that this president will continue to lie to the American people. That is what he does. And to the point of one other colleague, I just want to say President Trump's name calling is racist. Calling somebody a bully and unintellectual are just adjectives to describe them. That is not name calling.
Is calling someone a liar and a clown okay in a presidential debate, Rina Shah?
President Trump has said much worse. I'm not trying to say that whatever Joe Biden said back is okay. I'm trying to say that I saw Joe Biden defend himself from a person who uses racist language. Calling Senator Elizabeth Warren Pocahontas is racist. It's like calling me a curry lover. I am born on U.S. soil. I deserve as much respect as any other American woman. And let me just tell you, gentlemen, American women are suffering so greatly from this pandemic. We are at the brink, and we're just at the beginning, of a recession, the greatest recession that American women will face in our lifetimes. And this is unreal to me. American women are bearing the brunt of this pandemic, and this president could care less because he has a problem with women and he has a problem with minorities. And you can't tell me otherwise because the past 4 years have shown me that.
Right.
Which is why he's about 25 points behind among women. That is why women, particularly suburban women in this country, will give this election to Joe Biden because they don't trust Donald Trump, and with good reason.
Well, opinion polls, just playing the devil's advocate, have got it horribly wrong in the past. And we have discussed race issues, and Joe Biden's record on race is not very inspiring. But we'll leave it for some other day. Lieutenant Stephen Roger, Donald Trump refused to follow the rules of this debate, and he has already indicated that he may not accept the result if it goes against him. Are we looking at more chaos?
Well, listen, he's going to accept the results. All right.
He said he may not. He said he may not on record, not once but repeatedly.
All right. I'll qualify what I said. Okay. The fact of the matter is, he's absolutely right. It may take months before they count the results of this election. I don't even think Joe Biden. I believe Joe Biden also said that he's not going to count on the results of the election the night that the election ends. Why would he? Why would any candidate? You've got millions of ballots still out. So, this name call, the president's this is what we just heard. He's a tax cheat. He's a thief. He hates women. He's a racist, and on and on and on. This is all they have in their arsenal. And for every single one of those charges against the president, I could prove they're dead wrong. The fact of the matter is he a racist? When it comes to minorities, he's done a lot for minorities. Is he an individual who hates women? Of course not. All right. Women for Trump have millions of women backing him. I could go on and on and on and defend the president. But the fact of the matter is that he is president of the United States. All right. He's doing the best he could. And he's done a darn good job for people in all walks of life. And when election day comes, one or two things going to happen. They're going to wait for a few weeks or maybe a month or so. The election will be certified. Donald Trump loses. He'll leave the White House with dignity and with honor. He'll always protect this country. If he wins, he's going to stay in the White House for another 4 years, and he will continue to bring his America First agenda to the American people as he has consistently up until now.
Well, the fact of the matter is that the facts are the biggest casualty in this discourse and in this election. Bernard Whitman, the concern about absentee ballots remains a subject of discussion. Today we've learned that nearly 100,000 defective absentee ballots were sent to voters in New York, and Donald Trump did not lose that opportunity to tweet about this. And while what the president says about accepting or not accepting the result is serious, do you think there is some merit in the points that he's raised?
No, I think what Donald Trump has done for the last 6 months is fundamentally call into question the legitimacy and the legality of this election, fundamentally called into question the legitimacy and legality of mail-in ballots, despite the fact 30 million people voted by mail, more than 30 million in 2018, that President Trump has voted by mail for years and years and years, and that every single expert in election law and election security has said that mail-in ballots do not contain an overly high incidence of fraud. What this president is doing, and what is most troubling, is when he was called on to denounce white supremacy, not only did he not denounce white supremacy, he called on by name a neo-Nazi, fascist, right-wing, violent organization, the Proud Boys, and actually called on them to stand by because this is not going to end well and someone needs to deal with the left. That is incitement to violence. It is frightening. It is unprecedented. And for that reason alone, I think he should be thrown out of office.
Right. I'm out of time, but I want to ask some yes or no questions to each one of you. Do you believe Joe Biden won this debate? Do debates like these have any impact on how voters are going to vote? Because 90% of them apparently have already made up their mind. And is this one of the worst debates that we've seen in U.S. presidential history? Let's start with Reena Shah.
This was the worst debate we've ever seen in U.S. history, as if we can even call it that. And let's be honest about one thing here. Both of these men have been in the public eye for decades. I mean, think about that, decades. So it's very likely that the public has made up its mind. But what we saw last night, I think, really crossed the line. If the president of the United States is going to give rise to hate group, a neo-Nazi hate group, then we know that he's not a president for all people. And that should sway people when they vote, however it is, by mail or in person with a mask on.
Arvind Vora.
This debate was a travesty, both in terms of its execution and in terms of its political exclusiveness. This debate didn't cover issues that are important to the American people. The fact that Joe Biden is the architect of the drug war and Joe Jorgensen wants to end it. The fact that Joe Jorgensen wants to end the income tax. None of that stuff was debated because this was a sham debate. It was a sham in its behavior, and it was a sham because it kept out some of the important candidates and, more importantly, the ideas that they represent. Instead of talking about ending the war on drugs, we got to talk about Joe Biden's son for half an hour.
Bernard Whitman.
To answer your question, Joe Biden did win the debate. Even Republican pollster Frank Lunt's focus groups of undecided said that Trump seemed like un-American and a crackhead. I think that ultimately this does not change the outcome because I think it locks in where it was before, which is Biden is up by 6 or 7 points, including 3 to 5 points in most swing states. And undoubtedly, it was the worst debate in modern history.
Lieutenant Stephen Roger.
There was no winner. There was no loser. But the fact of the matter is that the people of the United States will vote on two issues, the economy and whether they're safe or not, law and order. The president articulated very clearly his law and order position and his economic plans for the future. And it's very, very true. It's undeniable. No one could deny the fact that Joe Biden does not and couldn't even mention one law enforcement agency or organization that supported him. President Trump has received overwhelming support from cops all over the country. So the election will be based on those issues. And moving forward, I don't see a problem with the president being reelected.
We'll have to see. But thanks very much for the moment. Arvind Vora, Lieutenant Stephen Roger, Bernard Whitman and Reena Shah. Thank you very much for joining us here on Beyond. It was a very good conversation.